F5, it's a paper called Performance Management. This comes directly from the F2 paper and then feeds into the P5 Advanced Performance Management. So the first thing to say here, when you've passed F5, don't throw your books away, because much of what is in F5 is also going to be in P5. When you've gone and passed your P5, then by all means burn all of your notes if you want to, throw them away, but until you've passed P5, keep your notes, because they're your notes, you are learning from your notes, and much of F5 is also relevant at P5. The syllabus includes then decision making, budgeting, standard costing. These are all coming up from the F2 syllabus. So again, as I mentioned 15 minutes ago, what did you score at F2? How well did you perform? And if necessary, go back to the ACCA website and just refresh your knowledge. Spend 2 hours just going through the F2 pilot paper. See how well you do. See what you remember, see what you don't remember. And then we've got this topic of performance management systems. So I've mentioned the fact then that the F5 paper does very much build up from F2. When the current syllabus, which we're going back to about 2007, was introduced, F5 was a very badly done paper. Pass rates for the first few sittings were in the 20%. And so it was a big issue. One of the issues being that students were seeing for the first time a fully written exam. They'd moved up from the multi-choice of F1, 2 and 3, and they were shocked having to do this full 100-mark written paper. Okay, there are some numbers involved in there, but the structure of the professional papers did shock a lot of students. Since the first 3 or 4 diets, then the pass rate has improved dramatically into the 40s and low 50s at times now. But what I want to stress from that is you've got to make yourself prepared for these professional exams. With the F5 paper, then it's 5 20-mark questions. Again, no choice. And the mixture could be 40% numbers, 60% words, or 60% numbers, 40% words. They tend to be the extremes, and it could be anything in between. So you could get a 50-50, 45-55, etc. So it is a mixed paper, words and numbers. Very difficult to pass on words alone, very difficult to pass on numbers alone. So you've got to be prepared to write, you've got to be prepared to do calculations. They will be with you in this paper. Quite often a question does require a calculation and then asks for a written explanation. We make the statement here that flow-through marks are available, and you'll find that in a lot of the numerical stroke written papers, whereby if you've done a calculation and you've got the numbers wrong, if the outcome incorrect in there, you can still earn what we call flow-through marks for following up your calculations by correct explanation. So don't worry if your calculations are incorrect. As long as your comments follow up in what you've stated, you will be earning marks. And the other point to note on marking, and this is again general throughout the papers on there and up into the P papers, the professional papers, is that you're only marked wrong once. So if you've done a calculation at the very start, say for a consolidation calculating goodwill, you've got it wrong. That goodwill then goes into maybe an impairment testing calculation. As long as you followed through your goodwill figure correctly, then you will get the marks for the impairment. So don't worry again if you make an incorrect calculation early on, it's not going to penalise you all the way through your paper. A new topic for F5 is this management information systems. So if any of you have taken F5 before, then do be aware that there is going to be a new part of the syllabus. It's relevant from June this year for the first time. So just be aware that it's an additional topic that's been included in the F5 syllabus. For your preparation, and again, this is specific to F5, but it's really relevant to all papers. You've got to prepare yourself properly. A lot of students sign themselves up for the exams. 2 weeks before the exams, they decide it's time to start their preparations. That really isn't going to set them up with a chance of passing. Some of them will, but we tend to say you've got to give yourself 3 to 4 months lead up and preparation. So read the syllabus and the study guide. Understand what it is you're taking. Study thoroughly. So you've got to be disciplined again. You've got to give yourself 2 evenings, maybe a weekend, 4 hours or so at the weekend at least, to start off with, to start your studies. Read the text, whoever study system you use, follow that text thoroughly. Work through questions. As you get up to the revision phase, then you should be focusing more on recent questions, past exam questions. Read technical articles. You'll find a list of technical articles on the ACCA website for each individual paper. Read them. Many of them have been written by examiners or markers or assessors, so they know what they're talking about. We can't guarantee that an article being written is actually going to be examined, but it gives you an idea. And very important, really, don't just think in isolation of this is an exam on performance management. I'll read the text and that's all I need to know. Be aware of what's going on around you. Develop not only your exam focus, but what's going on in the world. What's going back 4 years or so to the financial crisis? What caused it? Be aware of how it's impacting upon business as a whole. So keep yourself up to date on topical issues. Make yourself business aware. Don't just think, this is an exam, I've got to learn everything about this particular topic. As you progress through your studies, more and more knowledge is going to be required from the outside world.